Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today's topic is trachea and the right and left bronchi. So in this class we will see the details of the trachea, tracheal bifurcation, and also the right bronchus extrapulmonary and intrapulmonary part, left bronchus extrapulmonary and intrapulmonary part. Those who have not subscribed to the channel, do subscribe now. Keep watching the videos. Now we will move on to the topic trachea. Trachea, are you seeing? This is the trachea. It's a membrano-cartilaginous tube which extends downwards as a continuation of larynx. So you are seeing the larynx and the upper part. So the trachea is the continuation of the larynx. It begins at the lower border of cricoid cartilage. So what you are seeing is the cricoid cartilage. From that lower border of cricoid cartilage, it begins opposite to the vertebral level C6. Course, it passes downwards through the neck and also the superior mediastinum of thorax. Termination of trachea or ends by dividing into right and left bronchi opposite the sternal angle. So this bifurcation into right and left bronchi corresponds with the lower border of T4 level in cadaver, and in supine position it extends to T6 in living and in the standing position. In the newborn, this tracheal bifurcation corresponds to the level of T3 vertebra. Trachea lies in the median plane except at its termination, where it slightly deviates to the right due to the pressure of the arch of aorta. If you see the measurements, length 10 to 11 centimeter, breadth 2 centimeter in adult male and 1.5 centimeter in adult female. If you see the internal measurement of the trachea, it is 12 millimeter in the adult. In newborn, it is 3 millimeter in birth. If you see the internal measurement, which persists up to third year of life. Therefore, thereafter, the lumen increases by 1 millimeter each year up to 12th year. After that, it fairly remains constant. This is important for the anesthetists in selecting the size of the tube during intratracheal intubation in the children. Relations of the neck and in the thorax are very much important, that we will see in the another class of relations of trachea. Now in this class we will see mainly the structure of trachea and also the bifurcation of trachea. Structure of trachea, the trachea consists of number of incomplete C-shaped cartilaginous rings. You can see it is, this cartilage is incomplete, C-shaped, complete only in the front and not in the back, which are connected by the strong fibroelastic membrane and by the involuntary trachealis muscle on the posterior surface, where cartilages are absent. You can see on the posterior surface cartilages are absent. These are C-shaped cartilages deficient behind and are composed of, they are hyaline cartilages. The number of the rings are about 16 to 20. First ring is the broadest. Last ring presents a triangular process that is called CARINA, which hooks upwards from the lower margin and corresponds with the commencement of the two bronchi. The cartilaginous rings are they are absent in posterior surface to allow the expansion of esophagus during deglutition. Trachea is lined by ciliated pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. So they are the details of the trachea. Now we will see the right bronchi. So this is the right bronchi. So right bronchi, the two principal bronchi begin at the bifurcation of the trachea and enter at the hilum of the corresponding lung, where it divides into successive generations of smaller bronchi. Each bronchus consists of extrapulmonary and intrapulmonary part. So we will see the right bronchus. It's wider and shorter more vertical than the left one. You can see in this it is shorter and wider than the left. It is wider because it is supplying somewhat voluminous right lung. It is more vertical because trachea at its bifurcation deviates more to the right side. Hence, usually foreign body in the trachea is usually aspirated into the right lung. If you see this extra pulmonary part of trachea, it is about 2.5 centimeter. So this is the extra pulmonary part of trachea. Right bronchus passes downwards and to the right from the bifurcation of trachea, making an angle of 25 degree with the median plane. Before the artery crosses the bronchus, so this upper lobar bronchus is given outside the lung. So this is the eparterial bronchus, upper lobar bronchus to the upper lobe of the right lung. So the rest of the bronchus, the remaining bronchus is hypoarterial in its course. So this only upper lobar bronchus is given outside the lung, that is above the pulmonary artery, that's why it is called eparterial. The remaining bronchus divides into secondary or lobar bronchi within the lung, one for each lobe. So you are seeing two more lobar bronchi inside the lung. Each secondary bronchus, so these are the three secondary bronchus, one outside the lung and two inside the lung. They divide into segmental bronchus. You are seeing so many segmental bronchi or tertiary bronchi. So their number and direction of this tertiary bronchi are constant in a spaces. So that the area of the lung aerated by a single tertiary bronchus is known as bronchopulmonary segment. So that is these are the terminal or tertiary bronchus. Tertiary bronchus, these supplies a part of the lung, that part will be called as bronchopulmonary segment. So these segments are separated from one another by the intersegmental areolar septa, which prevent the spread of infection from one segment to the other. So while the branches of the pulmonary artery also follow these tertiary bronchi, pulmonary vein run in the intersegmental septa. A bronchopulmonary segment we will see in the next class. Here in this we will continue with the distribution of the right lobe principal bronchus. So this upper lobar bronchus arises from the supralateral part of the main bronchus. You are seeing it is arising from supralateral part of the main bronchus, that is the upper lobar bronchus. About 2.5 centimeter distal to the bifurcation of the trachea. It passes upwards and laterally for 1 centimeter. Usually it divides into 3 tertiary bronchi. You can see 3 tertiary bronchi for the upper lobar bronchus. They are the apical, anterior and posterior. So that they are the 3 tertiary bronchi from the upper lobar or secondary bronchus. Apical, anterior and posterior. Thereafter the main bronchus runs here. Yes, this is then the right principal bronchus, main bronchus runs here, hypoarterial course. Yes, that is the right principal bronchus, and passes downwards, backwards and laterally, accompanied by the pulmonary artery. About 2 centimeter below the origin of the upper lobe bronchus, the main trunk gives off from the front a lobar branch to the middle lobe. So this is the lobar branch to the middle lobe, where it divides into lateral and medial. So you can see these two are the lateral and medial of the middle lobe bronchus. Then the lower lobar bronchus. This is the lower lobar bronchus. They divide into the middle lobe bronchus. First we will finish. So the middle lobe bronchus is long and surrounded by a group of hilar lymph nodes, which drain lymphatics from the middle and lower lobes of the lung, right lung. Therefore, enlargement of these hilar lymph nodes may, due to infection or malignant growth, might collapse the entire middle lobe of the. So this is the middle lobe bronchus surrounded by hilar lymph nodes. So this is called as collapse of the middle of the right lung, will be called as middle lobe syndrome. The remaining part of the right principal bronchus. So now this is the remaining part of the right principal bronchus. Supplies the lower lobe. It divides into 5 tertiary bronchus. So you can see in this 5 tertiary bronchus from the lower lobe bronchus. Apical bronchus that arises opposite or just distal to the middle lobar bronchus. Then about 2 cm below the origin of the apical bronchus, the remaining branches are anterior basal, medial basal. Then lastly the bronchus divides into lateral basal and posterior basal. So these are the tertiary bronchi from the right principal bronchus. Now we will see the left principal bronchus. Left principal bronchus is longer, narrower than the right one. Longer, narrower than the right one. It is about 5 cm in length. It makes an angle of 45 degree with the median plane at the tracheal bifurcation and passes downwards and to the left below the arch of aorta. It enters the lung root at the hilum. At the hilum, the left principal bronchus does not give any lobar bronchus. So that is the difference between the right principal bronchus and the left principal bronchus. Whole bronchus passes below the pulmonary artery. So that whole bronchus is hypoarterial in course. Now the intrapulmonary part of the left principal bronchus. The left principal bronchus, you can see it is dividing into upper and lower lobar bronchi to supply the respective lobes of the left lung. So in first upper lobar bronchus arises about 5 cm distal to the bifurcation of the trachea, passes upward and laterally for 1 cm, divides into ascending and descending branches. Ascending branch subdivides into apico-posterior, anterior. So that is the ascending. Apico-posterior and anterior to supply respective bronchopulmonary segments. So sometimes they may arise separately. The descending branch you can see. So this descending branch subdivides into, so this is the descending branch, subdivides into, yes, this is the descending branch, subdivides into upper and lower lingular bronchi to supply the lingula, same like which is the middle lobe of the right lung. The lingular tertiary bronchi are upper and lower, whereas those of the middle lobe of the right lung are lateral and medial. Lower lobar bronchus now. So this is the lower lobar bronchus. Lower lobar bronchus passes downwards, laterally, backwards and divides usually into 4 tertiary bronchi: apical, anterior basal, lateral basal and posterior basal. So these are the lower lobar tertiary bronchi of the left lung. So we have covered in detail. Now we will mark this labels. So this is the superior lobar bronchus of right lung, apical segmental bronchus of right lung, superior lobar bronchus, posterior segmental, anterior segmental, bronchus intermedius for the middle lobe, then that is superior segmental, inferior lobar bronchus, medial basal segmental, anterior basal segmental, posterior basal segmental, lower basal segmental, middle lobar bronchus, lateral segmental bronchus and medial segmental bronchus. So we have finished the right side. We will see on the left side. Apico-posterior segmental, superior lobar bronchus, superior division of the apico-posterior segmental bronchus, lingular bronchus, anterior segmental, superior lingular segmental, inferior lingular segmental, inferior lobar bronchus, anteromedial segmental, posterior basal segmental, lateral basal segmental, medial basal bronchus, and anterior basal segmental bronchus. So these are the tertiary bronchi from the right and left principal bronchi of right and left lungs. So now we have completed in this class the detailed description of the structure of the trachea and also the parts of the right and left bronchi. Two parts we have learnt in detail, extra and intrapulmonary parts, and also we have learnt in detail the divisions of the principal bronchi into secondary bronchi and tertiary bronchi. We will continue with the bronchopulmonary segment in the next class. Those who have not subscribed to the channel, do subscribe now. Keep watching the videos. Don't forget to press the like button and share button of the video. Thank you.